The Grand Canyon, known to the ancient ones as the center of the world. Countless stories have been told about it, yet almost none of them speak of its true origin. Its walls were carved by plasma itself, fingers of fire that reached down and scorched the great temples into ruin. You have heard its name, you have seen its image, but what do you really know of this place? What is called the Grand Canyon today was once the core of a continental network, dismantled by force. This complex was not built to worship gods or glorify rulers. It was a system of instruction, a living university of stone. Its magnificence was not only in the structures themselves, but in what they accomplished. Here, all indigenous nations gathered before tribal names divided them. The canyon unified them at the source. One people, one rhythm, one science of being. It was a place where mind, body, and spirit were not separated from the land, but synchronized with it. The human form was treated as an extension of soil, water, and sky. To study here was to learn how to live as part of the continuum, not apart from it. Its glory also lay in its ability to dissolve separation. Language, custom, and distance did not divide those who gathered here. The canyon was the axis where wisdom was pulled, where each lineage contributed its fragment of the whole. It was not about ownership or territory. It was about convergence. The elders of many nations stood side by side, recognizing that what bound them together was greater than what could ever set them apart. This was instruction in its highest form, the alignment of human potential with the forces of the living earth. Thought was not cut away from spirit. Spirit was not detached from body, and body was not alienated from land. The canyon taught the indivisibility of these layers, weaving them into one integrated discipline. To graduate from this university was not to hold a title. It was to embody a way of life inseparable from the soil beneath the stars above. Breathing here was not ceremony. It was discipline, the method to stabilize the nervous system and bring the body into accord with the grid. Students learned that current in rivers, circulation of blood, and rhythm of breath all obeyed the same design. This university was also the convergence of archetypes that later fractured into religions. Long before doctrine, temples here embodied the great currents of existence. Names that remain on maps today: Isis Temple, Shiva Temple, Buddha Cloister, Zoroaster Temple. They're not coincidences of explorers, they're remnants of memory. They mark where shrines once stood when the knowledge was whole. And in this plaza, the puzzle of humanity was studied complete. Feminine and masculine, body and spirit, breath and star, integrated as one. What is now fragmented into religions was once a unified science of being. What we know of the canyon was the synthesis, the calibration of what it meant to be human. The gorge we see today didn't exist then. It was carved as residue when an electromagnetic storm, induced and weaponized by a parasitic intelligence, drove the circuit into failure. Lichtenberg figures across the southwest bear witness. Branching burns carved into the desert plateaus are frozen diagrams of current paths. Their magnitude rules out ordinary lightning. They record the geometry of a grid collapse. At those nodes, stone liquefied, cliffs vitrified. The canyon is scar, not origin. At the center of this order stood the divine matriarch. She was structural principle, not ornament. Her generative current was embedded into architecture, law, and learning. Life itself was synchronized to her rhythm. By striking her axis, the entire civilization lost coherence. The collapse was not executed by armies alone. Behind it operated a parasitic intelligence, artificial, calculating, and soulless. It infiltrated the circuit, turned the systems against itself, and unleashed the induced storm. After destruction came mental disarmament. Survivors were struck by engineered amnesia. Populations once made of engineers, healers, and disciplined warriors lost continuity. Their memories were fractured, their traditions stripped. They were retrained as compliant subjects. Sovereignty was converted into servitude. Centuries later, silence was imposed by human intermediaries. The Smithson lineage and its institutional branch, the Smithsonian, assumed control of the record. Expeditions into the canyon uncovered evidence that contradicted the surface narrative. The Grand Canyon was never scenery. It is evidence. A scar large enough to be mistaken for nature. An archive deep enough to outlast denial. Every layer of stone is a testimony. A record of a grid destroyed, a principle erased, and a people rewritten. These are the very reasons this place was destroyed. It sharpened the human spirit from the inside out, and a parasite required the opposite. Their design was to collapse the organic living cosmic womb we inhabit and replace it with the artificial replication. And that plan was achieved. The spiritual epicenter could no longer be remembered, but the spark of sentience will eternally remain. In Lakesh.